Hi, this is Coach Aaron Saft and the Running is Life podcast. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm still pretty groggy. I'm about 2 days removed from the Leadville 100, and what an experience it was. Oh my goodness. And that's what we're going to go through today. I've got a lot coming up here, so I'm going to be pre-recording a lot of podcast episodes, and hopefully they'll release on time. I apologize for the Vespa episode. I'm not sure what happened there. I thought I scheduled that, but it released early. So last week, the podcast released the week before, which is fine. So if you're wondering why the timing was off, it was just an error on my part. So anyhow, on to Leadville. What an amazing experience. I was definitely nervous going into it. I just kept telling myself, I gotta believe myself. Kept thinking of my inner Ted Lasso, believe. I even brought a keychain that said believe. It had the believe sign from Ted Lasso. From those of you that have seen the yellow sign with the blue letters, I got a little keychain and attached that to my pack as a reminder. Just, kind of have faith and, let's stay after it. It was interesting because I kept getting so many mixed messages from, all different people. Oh, that course is so tough. Oh, there's, 50% finish rate, and oh, it's just beautiful. It's wonderful. Oh, it's so hard. Oh man, I would never run that course again. Oh man, I really want to run it again. Like I said, just this mixed bag of messages, which, made my mental and emotional state kind of a roller coaster going into it. So especially just coming off a Badger, less than 3 weeks earlier. So, I was trying to stay focused, stay relaxed. So, as Monday rolled around, I promised myself not to stress. If I started to notice that I was getting stressed or anxious or nervous, I had to just, let it go and just kind of stay focused on the game plan, and just try to enjoy my time. So I flew out on Tuesday. My buddy Nathan, who was crewing and pacing, actually saw him at the airport in Nashville. We were heading out at the same time. We had different flights, but we would arrive about the same time in Denver. So we flew into Denver. We got our car. We went to look for some coffee, and just started making our way towards Leadville on Tuesday. We stopped in Breckenridge. We had some lunch, did a little shopping. I had wanted to try the Ultra Timps, the new Timps. I'd read reviews that the upper of the shoe is not as durable, but it was more the underfoot that I was looking for. I had the Outroad, and I just had the original Outroads, and I was going to use those for the first section of Leadville, and I'll kind of go through that, in a bit. But yeah, I wanted to try the Timps because I thought maybe the Timps would serve me better. So we found a run shop, and I think it's High Peaks, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look that up, but we stopped in there and they had the Timps, and I tried them on and decided, yeah, these feel good. I'm going to give them a go. So I bought the Timps and just kind of started walking around in them. The next few days I would run in them. I'd do my runs and walks in them just to kind of break them in a little bit. I know it's crazy, to try a new shoe that close to a race. But I felt pretty confident in them. They felt similar to the Outroad in the fit. So I was pretty confident they'd serve me well. And if anything went wrong, I only had to be in them for about 12 miles before I saw my crew. So we'll talk about that. But so picked those up, and then we made our way into Leadville. So Tuesday we arrived in Leadville. We rented a tiny house, cute little tiny house. There's a tiny house village in Leadville, found it on VRBO, and we grabbed some dinner. Just kind of settled in for the night and relaxed. And then Wednesday morning, we went over to Turquoise Lake, which is a huge piece of the first and last part of Leadville. Leadville is an out and back. So to kind of give you an overview, Leadville 100 is actually 101 miles. You go out over Hope Pass into Winfield, and then that's 50.5 miles. Then you turn around and come right back the same way you came. So we'll go through the whole course here and talk about things. But so we went to Turquoise Lake to do a run. It was a great first run. Turquoise Lake is around probably 9,000 feet, somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 feet. Leadville sits at 10,200 feet-ish. But Turquoise Lake was a little bit lower. It was completely flat, non-technical, so it was nice, nice kind of break into altitude, if you will, run. We realized we probably should have been carrying some water. It's definitely a drier climate, and the altitude, you need to kind of stay hydrated, which became very relevant in the race itself. So, we were kind of taking some notes. The Tims seemed to work great. They felt really good underfoot. I was really happy with those. So it was, it was a good run. And then kind of the remainder of Wednesday, we just walked around Leadville. We did a little bit of shopping and got some souvenirs for our families and stuff. Nobody else really got in on Wednesday, so just the two of us again. So we were just hanging out and doing stuff. We were watching Ted Lasso Wednesday night. And then our friends Morgan and Mercedes, who have both crewed and paced for me, they were at Western States. Mercedes was racing, so they got in Wednesday night. So I texted her Thursday morning. We were going to go up to the Continental Divide and kind of run from Twin Lakes, which is another big part of the course, just to kind of see that area. I said, do you want to come? And they're like, yeah, definitely. And so I asked, where are you staying? And they're like, well, we're on 2nd Street. I was like, oh, we're on 2nd Street. We're in the tiny houses. And they're like, we're in the tiny houses. And they ended up being like right next door, which is just incredible. Such a coincidence. But anyway, we got ourselves together and went we went out to the Continental Divide and saw that, which was absolutely gorgeous. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful scene. And we had another couple come with us. Travis was racing. Travis is an awesome runner, amazing runner. And his wife, Beth. So it was the six of us, Nathan and I, Morgan, Mercedes, and Travis and Beth. And, we had a great time. The Continental Divide. And then we went down into Twin Lakes. We went for our run. Just checked out, there's a river crossing if you watch any of the YouTube videos. So when you leave the Twin Lakes aid station, you cross over the river, and that's when you begin your ascent up Hope Pass, which again, we'll talk about later. And then obviously it's an out and back, so you come back through the same way. So we ran to the river just to kind of see how deep it was, just get a feel for what we were looking at. The course was already marked, or it was already flagged. So, we were kind of just getting to see everything and getting a feel for everything, which was cool. Course was marked with pink survey flags that had reflective tape, as well as some pink and black striped ribbon with some reflective tape. Very well marked. The course was very well marked. I never had a question of where to go. Absolutely never. So then we got back to Twin Lakes. They had a great little kind of pizza food truck. So we had some pizza. There was a little, they called it Pass Gas. It was awesome. This little convenience store. So we grabbed some drinks and some food and just hung out there for a little bit. Enjoyed just the quietness of the day. It's just a beautiful day. Sky was amazing. Temperature was perfect. And then we headed back to Leadville, and so that was on Thursday. So Nathan and I went and grabbed some dinner, and it was just kind of a relaxing afternoon. Drew, my other pacer and crew member, got in, so we were hanging out with him, and then Morgan and Mercedes and Travis and Beth. We were all just kind of hanging out outside talking, and decided to get some dinner. So we all did dinner together. It was just really nice. It was social. It was relaxed. We were planning on doing. There was 2 group runs in the morning. We were going to try to make the Goo group run and the Rabbit group run. Rabbit was going to be handing out the ice bandanas that they had given out at Western States. So we were trying to make both. So we all got some sleep. It was nice to relax. I had 2 nights sleep still, Thursday night and Friday. So waking up Friday, we grabbed some coffee and then went to the group runs. We made both group runs and then had to head back to the house to kind of, grab some stuff and get ready for the pre-race meeting. So the pre-race meeting was at 10 a.m. At the high school football field. They had it all set up for the pre-race talk. So when we got there, there was a shipping container and it had some shade. So I just kind of took a seat there in the shade, relaxed and listened to the pre-race meeting. A lot of information. Man, it was a long pre-race meeting. It was about an hour and a half of pre-race meeting. So I was so glad I found the shade. And Ken, when Ken Kluber came on, oh man, he had some really, motivational things that really stuck with me. And if you saw my post, this is where I heard it. The first thing he said was, you got to pay your debts. You owe it to the people that have made this possible for you to finish. And that continue to help you through this. So, your family, all the sacrifices they made financially, time-wise, it's just, you owe it to them to get through this, to give it everything you got. And, if it's time that pulls you off the course, at least you gave it everything you had to get to that point. But again, like everybody that came up and talked, there were a number of people that spoke at the pre-race meeting. It was just, they kept reiterating the amount of DNFs, which, during a pre-race meeting, that's tough. We know the realities. There's so many things that could take you out of this race, from heat to cold to altitude. I mean, there's just, so many dangers along the trail, from, rocks and roots. There's just a lot of things out there, that could potentially hurt you. So, it was just, again, trying not to focus on, the negative aspects of that, again, realizing that there were dangers and possibilities, but how do you navigate those? How do you mitigate and be able to get through those? That was what I had to keep pondering on and making sure that I took every possibility to not DNF. So yeah, meeting took a lot away from it. Took a lot to heart. We went back to the tiny house, started working on drop bags and making sure everything was together for our gear, because the packet pickup was in a separate location. And so we had to go to packet pickup, and then there was another location for the drop bags, which was at the Leadville merchandise store. And we also had lunch with the group that I fundraised for, the CAF, the Challenged Athletes Foundation. They're having a kind of meet and greet lunch, so you could meet the other athletes that were running, meet the people that were behind the foundation, behind us getting there. So we made our way to the lunch, made our introductions, had some food, just kind of talked to some of the other runners for a little bit, and then made our way down to the packet pickup. Where I saw a friend and athlete, Penny Anderson. She was going to crew for me as well. Picked up my race number from her and all my stuff. Took a quick spin around the expo. I really didn't want to be on my feet for too long, so just kind of perused through, grabbed a cappuccino from a food truck, and then I just sat there. Nathan and Drew kind of wanted to walk around a little bit more, find some friends that they knew were there. So I just sat and relaxed. There was a tent in the shade. So it was nice to just chill while they were doing that, and gave them some time. And then, time came, I was like, all right, let's get going. So, we found the drop bag area. I only had one drop bag at Winfield. You could do multiple at most of the aid stations if you needed to. which in hindsight, I should have probably done one at the Mount Elbert aid station, but lesson learned, as well as probably the Hope Pass aid station. So we'll talk about that here as we get into the race, but yeah, so we got the packet, we did the drop bag, and then headed back for the tiny house, and Nathan and Drew were going to head over to the grocery store and pick up stuff that I needed. That way I could, do my last minute preps and just relax. So, yeah, that was really nice. Being able to spend the afternoon and just chill out. I didn't have much stress. Things were coming together nicely. When they got back, we kind of just organized things, make sure everything was ready for the morning. And then the Challenged Athlete Foundation had a pre-race dinner, so we went to that, and just hung out and again talked to some of the athletes, got to know some of them. One of the athletes had just done the 100-mile bike ride. He was attempting the lead man, and he was a above the knee amputee, but somebody had clipped him during the bike race, and he had fallen and broken his collarbone. So we talked to him for a while and heard his story, and the challenges that he was presented with. He is actually he creates the prosthetics for the Special Olympics athletes, which is incredible. He's the national leader on that. So really cool talking to him. And we talked to another gentleman by the name of Jeremy. Jeremy has been on a number of podcasts. He has an amputation on his arm, but has been producing some really good results. And he was racing. And so we talked to everybody. It was a really nice dinner. Dinner wrapped up pretty early. I think we were home between 6:30 and 7 p.m. And just watched some Ted Lasso and got to bed around 9. We had a 2:30 a.m. wake up call because race starts at 4 a.m. So got up at 2:30. Nathan made some coffee for us, and we just made sure everything was packed in the car, that I had everything I needed. Mercedes and Morgan were there in the morning, and we all walked over to the start line together. It's quite the scene because there's like 845 runners that started, I think, and it's really cool atmosphere. It's downtown Leadville. Just a lot of people, just crowds of people, and the runners just, so it's like, oh my gosh, close to probably 2,000 people at 4 a.m., which is just insane. So, I got there, decided to go with the Timps. I was wearing my Usway 8-liter pace pack. And we decided to go with a 1.5 liter bladder, to get to, the first aid station at Mayqueen. Mayqueen was, like 12.6 miles away. So, it's a nice downhill to start. Man, that on the way back though, it wasn't so nice. So, it's about a 3-mile downhill, from the start. So everybody tears off. And, I wanted to be very conservative right from the start. Just to give myself the best shot at finishing, but still, kind of manage my time because the cutoffs were tough. They were absolutely tough. You have 30 hours to finish Leadville. It's about 14,000 feet of gain. So not tremendous, not, by some courses standards, but the altitude was a challenge. So there was a lot, so we made our way down to Turquoise Lake, and by the time we got to Turquoise Lake, I was just in a Congo line. So I was just trying to be patient, not worry about it, just try to relax. It was still dark. So we're running, with our lamps, and everything was fine. I was doing good. I was doing my Vespa at 2 hours, so I did my Vespa. I had a few chews. I was using the Scratch chews, the raspberry flavor. So just kind of moseying along. And then before I knew it, we're we're just running along the lake, and it starts to get bright, so you can start to see the lake. You can't really see May Queen, the first aid station, and all of a sudden you pop out of the lake, and you're kind of in this like state park little camping area. And there's May Queen. So I was already, to May Queen, saw my crew. So at this point it was Nathan, Penny, and Drew. My one of my really good friends, Jeremy, would join us later at Twin Lakes. So I was looking forward to seeing him. I hadn't seen him in like 7 years, and he was going to pace me later on. So I was really looking forward to seeing him. But we switched out my stuff at May Queen, gave me a fresh bladder. I was just drinking water and taking electrolyte tabs every half hour to 45 minutes at that point. Even on the hour, depending. At first it was more on the hour, and then, it got more frequent. But yeah, the next section, was May Queen to Outward Bound. And that section has the power line section in it. So if you've watched any of the videos, there's a long climb on either side of power line. Basically, you go up and then down, and then it's a road section over to Outward Bound. I met some nice folks along the section here. It was just kind of strange. Nobody was talking on the way to May Queen. It was very quiet. So everybody was kind of, I think, in their heads and kind of executing their own game plan. It was definitely weird because, like I said, there was very little talking. So I saw Ash Ringo Welsh, who did my website and new logo, during the first section, but it was so dark I didn't even, she's like, "Aaron, how are you?" I couldn't tell who it was because it was so dark. I texted her last night and apologized, saying I didn't realize that was you. So, but this next section, I did get to talk to a few people. Again, it's strange because everybody's back and forth doing their own thing, pacing wise. There's everybody would take a break at different points, so you didn't stay with anybody for very long because everybody was back and forth, and if they had to eat or drink, they would stop to do so, or at least slow to a walk to do so. So it wasn't like you could just join somebody and talk to them for a long period of time. I was talking to a gentleman for a while, and then he's like, "I gotta stop and pee." So like I said, it was tough because you just didn't have anybody to run with. So we kept making our way to Outward Bound, and it was warming up. It was definitely getting warm. It's some exposed areas. I took my bucket cap at May Queen and a pair of glasses. I got the gooder kind of wrap around ones to kind of protect my eyes a little bit more from the sun. We've made it to Outward Bound. Outward Bound is around mile 25, we'll call it. Huge aid station. Oh my gosh, there were just so many people. It was pretty crazy. I didn't know if I was going to, see my crew, and thankfully they found me and got me in. Had a little bit of food, a little bit of broth, a little bit of bacon. Again, kind of supplied up. The next section had a really good climb to it. We went by the base of Mount Elbert in the next section. There was an aid station in between the Outward Bound and the next time I would see my crew at Twin Lakes. And so, I was able to refill there. That would have been that Mount Elbert aid station would have been a good spot for a drop bag, and put some stuff there, especially some electrolyte tabs and stuff like that, because I started running low. And so thankfully I could refuel my bladder there because it was heating up. I was drinking quite a bit and getting my electrolytes down because, like I said, it was hot. It wasn't too bad to me. I was kind of used to the heat by then. It was definitely hotter, here in the south than it was there. And it being a dry heat, it wasn't as bad as the humidity. But people were definitely noticing, how hot it was. But again, it was just this, like, I would talk with somebody for a while, and then they're like, "Oh, I gotta, back off," or "I'm gonna go ahead," or so. We kept piggybacking, or not piggybacking, but leapfrogging. There's the word. We kept leapfrogging one another, back and forth. And so, hey again, but, it was never running with somebody. It was just, again, it was just strange. I had never really run 100 where it was just so, spread out. So, after leaving Outward Bound, we had this like pretty good road section again, which led us into, the trail. We go past, the pipeline. Pipeline is a place where people can crew if they weren't at Mayfield, or if they wanted to see you again. My crew did not go there, so just kind of ran past that and got to the Mount Elbert aid station. Seemed like it took quite a while because it was a good climb. So a lot of run walk going on. Just stayed on top of my nutrition and hydration best I could, refueled at that Mount Elbert aid station. And then, I knew I'd see my crew coming up at Twin Lakes. Really, I was so excited to kind of see them. Twin Lakes is mile 40, let me think, 38. Yeah, mile 38. So Twin Lakes is mile 38. So, it was a good long section, a little over 14 miles of running, without seeing the crew. But nice downhill into the aid station, and I just took advantage of it. I was running really well down the hill. Came down, just a huge crowd at Twin Lakes, just really fires you up. I was pumping my fist, just, excited to be there, excited to, get to that next section and get Hope Pass over with. Cause that's one of the toughest parts of the course is the climb up and over Mount Hope, and then or Hope Pass, and then coming back. So we took our time at that aid station. Jeremy was there, Morgan was there, and his other crew member Lynn. Lynn I met at Western States when she was crewing for Morgan. So they were all there taking care of me. So I had my full crew now: Jeremy, Nathan, Penny, and Drew. So, everybody, they're just checking on me, making sure I was okay. And I was in good shape. I had some food, got a lot of calories down, drank a lot, made sure I had everything I needed for this next section, because this was going to take a while. Hope Pass is just over 12,000 feet in elevation. So it's a really, tough climb. It's about a 4-mile climb, gaining about 3,000 feet. So I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed. I switched shoes. I went into the Mountain Racer 3s, the Topo Mountain Racer 3s, switched into my Dry Max socks because my feet were going to get wet in the river crossing, and grabbed my poles. So this is where I picked up my poles, and, just was ready for this next section. The next aid station would be, almost at the top of Hope Pass, about 5.5 miles away. I made sure I was good to go. Crew was in good shape. They were going to be there. They just had to wait there. You did the out and back. You went out to Winfield, which is the turnaround and aid station there, and then came back over. And, I wouldn't see them again until I got back in about 25 miles. So I had a 25-mile stretch here without seeing the crew. So I set off, had my poles in hand and ready to go. And, I started making my way, talked to a few new faces, that, I would see again, back and forth. I started my climb up, we went over the river, and as soon as you go over the river, you get into the woods and you start your climb. It's pretty rocky. It was hot, and I was going slower and slower as I made the climb. I was having a real hard time. I was struggling pretty hard. Just my heart kept escalating, elevating, and it was really demanding. I was really struggling to get up, and had to keep stopping every now and again. I was taking my electrolytes just because of how hot I was. I was sweating, and actually ran out of electrolytes on my way up, which I was like, oh man, I hope I'll be okay. So, kept moving, kept, watching my watch. How close was I getting to the aid station? And I ran out of water. Actually, I drained my bladder before I got to the aid station. And, knew I needed some electrolytes. So I had them fill it up with Roctane. The course had Roctane. Which, it was fine. For the time being, it was. Later on, it was not, for some reason. But, yeah, we got up to Hope Pass. I had some ramen up there, got a little bit of food. Again, resupplied my water, with the Roctane. And then it's still a little bit of climb to actually the top of Hope Pass from the aid station. That's where all the alpacas are. So if you've seen or heard, that's where they pack in all of the aid station with alpacas, which was cool. So got to see them all, out in this field where the aid station is. It's a really cool aid station, pretty surreal, pretty beautiful. You're up above tree line, so just gorgeous views. You could look back and see the Twin Lakes. So I was really just appreciative of the scenery. So, made my way up and over Hope Pass, and then it's a really, really tough descent down to Winfield. So just started making my way down, and that's when the leaders started. Actually, the leader and the gentleman that won, JP, he came flying down before I got to the Hope Pass aid station. But second place was pretty far back of him. And coming down, it was difficult because not only was the trail technical and steep, it was runners were coming up, so you had to move to the side. Sorry, this is my dog Miles. Hey, buddy. Okay. Sorry about that. So we had to make sure that we stayed out of their way. I had my poles, and so I'm turning to the side constantly, and just trying to not get in their way. These are, because this is the leaders. The woman came by, lead woman came by. I was waiting for Mercedes because I knew she was running really well, and I saw her, and she was having a hard time. So I tried to give her some encouragement. And she was keep moving. She did she did keep moving, which was awesome. So I just kept going, making my way down to Winfield. It seemed like it took forever. It was tough with all the people coming and going, and again the technicality and the width of the trail. So a lot of stop and go. Didn't really get into a flow. It wasn't really a runnable downhill, which made it tough. So just kept making my way. I was really struggling mentally, just knowing that I had to go back up. I was really having a difficult time, just, trying to get my mindset back into a reset mode and being okay with turning around and going back. Really was questioning my ability to keep going and to finish this thing, just because of how long it took me to get up the one side. I had to go back up now to Hope Pass. So my confidence was shaken. I saw one of the other Challenge Athlete Foundation runners, and she was having a rough go too, which made it really, really tough because we were commiserating. There wasn't a lot of positivity at the aid station either. When we got to Winfield, it was like a triage. People were just wrecked. People were hot. They were tired. Med tent was full. The aid station volunteers were wonderful. They were trying to do everything they could to revitalize us, give us food. I could barely talk. My throat was so dry. So I just kept drinking Roctane out of my reusable cup, just trying to get rehydrated. Thankfully, one of the guys, because I went to my drop bag, and for some reason, I didn't have my electrolyte tabs in there. And thankfully, there was a gentleman that had some electrolyte tabs. So I was able to refill there. But we, oh man, what a scene that was. And thankfully there were two gentlemen that were running, and the one said to the other, we can't sit here any longer. If we're going to finish this, we got to move. And that's what, really spurred me, was like, he's right. Like, if I go back to what Ken Kluber says, as I said in my Instagram post, I got to pay my debt. My crew is waiting for me on the other side. I promised myself 10 minutes at that aid station. I took about 10 minutes just to kind of reset and kind of make sure I had what I needed. And I started back out, and at first it was rough. I was not feeling great. I did have some food there at the aid station to hopefully kind of re-energize me. And so I started heading back up and seeing some faces that I had seen previously, and just trying to encourage them, and they did the same for me. And then all of a sudden my legs started working again, and I was able to start running some of the stuff and making my way up a lot quicker than I had come down, which was awesome. There were still people coming down, so again, still that like kind of move over, get out of the way. And oh man, it was nice to actually feel pretty good going back up. And when we started getting into the meat of the climb, I was doing okay, much better than I had been on the other side. Temperature was cooling down a little bit, which was really nice. So I was pretty pleased with how I was climbing. Finally got above tree line, which you can kind of see the top, and there's still a good ways to go once you can see the top, which is difficult. But we had a good line of people, and just a good pace, but again, no talking. We're all just kind of conserving our energy, trying to get up. So it's just now we're 55 plus miles into the race, and it was starting to get lonely. I mean, again, I hadn't really talked with anybody. It wasn't really, and that we're commiserating and talking. It wasn't any of that. It was just this solemn, like, it felt like you were just alone, just going through this, which sometimes that's what it is. And, that's tough, especially when you're, used to people and being around that support network. But I knew, I had my crew waiting for me on the other side. So we got up and over Hope Pass and back to the aid station at Hope Pass, and again had some more food, make sure I had enough fluids. And then I knew I had to get down. I had to get down as fast as I could to try to beat dark. I had watched, if you know Hella, he has a YouTube video about his Leadville experience. And when I watched that, he got back to Twin Lakes and it was already dark, and he was fine. He was well ahead of the cutoffs. But I knew I had to make that my goal to get back to Twin Lakes, right before or, at dark. So that's what I made my goal, to get down. So, I had some really good descenders to follow. We ran and ran and ran. And, it's a 4-mile descent, 3,000 feet of drop. So just, punishing, but, it's what I had to do. So I rolled down as fast as I could. I had like my little NU25, it's like 250 lumens. I had that little thing. So, that was in my drop bag. So I put that on just in case. Didn't really need it. But just had it just in case. But, just moved as fast as I could down the descent back over the river. And then, you run through the fields to Twin Lakes, and got back to my crew right at dark. So I was ahead of where Hella was in his video. So I was like, okay, we're good. Crew was like, you're fine on time. You're doing great. We're good. And that's where I picked up Jeremy. You can get your first pacer when you return to Twin Lakes. So I was so relieved to finally have somebody with me. And Jeremy was great. And in Leadville, it's interesting. The pacers can mule for you, so they can carry your gear. So from that point, Jeremy took my pack and everything. If I wanted to hold my hiking poles, he could. So, we stayed at the aid station for a little bit, threw some warm stuff over me, had a lot of food. Again, it had been 25 miles since I'd seen my crew. So, we were just, taking restock, make sure I was okay, massaging out my legs, because we had a good little climb to get out of there, to get back to the Mount Elbert aid station. But Jeremy was awesome. I love Jeremy. His positivity, it's infectious. And, we had, such a great time talking. We just hiked, ran a little bit where we could. But, he kept handing me, He had like a little handheld, and he just kept handing me water. About every 10 minutes I would drink, and then he's like, "Here, take some food." So he'd just hand me food every now and again. And then my legs didn't quite want to run, so we finally got to about 2 miles from the aid station. And he's like, "Let's just try to run one more time." And then my legs finally worked, and we ran to the aid station, at the Mount Albert, grabbed some food, some warm stuff. Didn't stay there too long. I didn't want to kind of stay too long. And then we kept running. We ran to the pipeline. And there's a ton of crews still there partying, neon lights and music everywhere. It was a great boost. We were doing great. I only took a few walk breaks, very short walk breaks, before Jeremy was like, "Hey, let's try to run again." So we stayed running a lot. We ran that section really well and kind of made up some good time on that section, getting back to Outward Bound. And Jeremy was great. He was so great. It was getting cool. I could tell the temperature was dropping. But I was fine. I had a long sleeve on at that point. I was good. Got into Outward Bound, and the crew was in good spirits because I was fine on time. I wasn't getting close to cutoffs or anything like that. So we just resupplied. I grabbed Drew. Drew was going to pace me the next section through Powerline, so we took off. Again, ran pretty decent amount all the way to the beginning of the power line climb. And when you come over power line, you don't realize how much downhill there actually was. It took forever to climb back up power line. I was surprised by how much climbing there actually was to go back up power line. So we hiked, and got up. And there's an aid station that they set up at night called Space Camp. And man, it was a party. And I was getting a little bit nauseous at this point. Anytime I was having sugar, I was having a hard time, and I had a Coke up there, and it started me to dry heave and retch. I didn't want that. Not what I needed at that point. So I said, okay, let's hold off on the sugar. So we got, thankfully we had just a descent from there. So we descended as best we could, running as best we could. It brings you out onto a road. It's a dirt road that brings you to the single track, which brings you back into Mayfield. The single track was pretty technical. There was still a lot of up on the single track, which was surprising. So it was a little slow going, but we did fine. Drew was awesome. He's such a wonderful guy. So we made it through that section unscathed. Got back into the aid station at May Queen. So I only had 12.6 miles to go. Now Nathan was picking me up as my pacer, and he was going to bring me home. I had some food, made sure I had enough warm, because it was definitely cool. It was getting into the 30s at that point. I'm excited. The finish is within reach. It was good. I had switched when I got back to Twin Lakes into my Olympus. So I was finishing out the race in my Ultra Olympus, and my feet were actually great. No problems with my feet. Every once in a while I was getting kind of a twinge in my hip, and my hamstring was a little bit twingy. Calves, man, when it got hot, my calves were doing the kind of wriggling like they were twinging, but they didn't cramp. But I was definitely aware of them. As it got cooler, I didn't have as many problems. I think it was just the heat of the day, perhaps a bit of dehydration. So it was well noted for Wasatch to be a little bit more cognizant of how much fluid I have, and how much fluid I'm taking in. But yeah. Thankfully all that stuff had gone away. I got a little bit of sleepy, but not bad. I didn't have the problems with like zombie walking like I had previously, both in Western States and a little bit in Badger. So getting better there, making some improvements, and Peter from Vespa had given me a vitamin supplement kind of to help, he said it would help with kind of decreasing the melatonin and just, helping me stay more awake. So no stimulants, just, some vitamin D, magnesium, some vitamin K, and I think that was kind of the three. There was 3 or 4. Anyway, it was a little protocol he gave me that kind of helped, keep me awake. And I was doing some of those caffeinated chews until my stomach turned and didn't want sugar anymore. So I'm going to talk to Peter about that. Not sure why my stomach turned again. Could have been from the heat of the day. I'm not sure. But yeah, so like I said, had a little bit of ramen at May Queen, and then Nathan and I started back out. Was able to keep running a bit at that point, but we got in around Turquoise Lake, and we were heading back to Turquoise Lake, and all of a sudden my quads were just like, we're done. We don't want to run anymore. So I had to give them a break. We slowed down and walked for a while. Very, very long section along Turquoise Lake, and very frustrating because you want to run, but your legs just don't want to let you. So I was trying to problem solve, tried to get some calories in, but again, my stomach just wasn't having it. I need to find another solution to have with me, aside from some sugary stuff. So I'm kind of thinking about that. That's something I need for Wasatch, is to have a better plan for things that I could eat along the route. But anyhow, but we kept making our way, and like I said, my quads were just they were done. They had done their job. They had got me off of Hope Pass. It was a long descent, and I think that's what really was really beating them up. It was how hard I had descended and how hard I had pushed down Hope Pass to get in before dark. They had survived past that, but at this point they were just like, we've done enough running for you. So we popped out on the road that kind of returns us to Leadville, and I was able to start walking again. We were able to run a little bit. It wasn't fast, but we were able to run and then walk and run and walk. And we just kept, going on and off as my legs let me. And then we saw Mercedes. I was really sorry to see her. I know she wanted to do so much. She wanted a different result, we'll say. It was tough to see her. She was tired. She was going to finish. She had plenty of time to finish. But she was moving, and we were, saying, hey, why don't we just finish with you? And she's like, no, it's too cold. Just go get finished. I know you're tired too. So Nathan and I kept moving. And then we hit the boulevard, which has all of the signs of the previous champions. It's a long, long climb. It was, about a 2-mile climb on this dirt road. Again, it's one of those grades where you probably could run, but my legs were just like, we'll give you a little bit. So I'd run for a bit and walk for a bit, run for a bit, walk for a bit. And we just kept making our way up. You hit the pavement with a mile to go, and that's pretty exciting to know you have 1 mile to go. Watch rolled over to 100 miles, which is always crazy to see. It's hard to describe because you can't envision the entire 100 miles that you've already completed. You kind of see it in sections. You can remember pieces, but it's to put it up as a whole, I don't think it's comprehensible. So was recognizing that as we hit that 100-mile mark. Nathan was smiling, encouraging as always, just wonderful, wonderful human being. I can't thank him enough. And so we got into town, and then it's just this long hill up to the finish. So, we were walking up, and there's people cheering you on, and, I'm just soaking in the moment, knowing that I'm going to finish. Here's the third race of the Grand Slam. Made our way up, and then my crew joined me, Penny and Drew, Jeremy, and obviously Nathan was with me. We walked up to the finish. I did a barrel roll across the finish line, and I was so relieved. I was done. Finished in just over 28 hours. Just super happy to get that finish. I didn't have a time goal. All I had in my mind was to finish, and I did that. So, my goal was achieved. I was super relieved, super happy to get my buckle. Beautiful 40-year anniversary medal they gave us. They had these awesome breakfast burritos. Grabbed a nice cold bottle of water and just kind of sat in the shade for a little bit and just let the whole atmosphere absorb and soak in just what was around me and what had just transpired. Just smiling and just super grateful. We talked about things, and I think Penny asked me, "Would you do it again?" And I said, "No, no, I would not." It's a cool, beautiful event, but it's not one that I would want to replicate. I was so glad I finished, so glad I got it done. Mercedes came in not too long after, so we got to be there for her finish, which was wonderful. Congrats to her. There was a lot of DNFs. There was a 44% finish rate this year. A lot of DNFs. 3 people that were attempting the Grand Slam DNF'd. So they are unfortunately out of the Grand Slam. There are only 6 of 17 left in the Grand Slam. So 6 of us left to complete the Grand Slam. Wasatch is less than 3 weeks away. I had my entry. I got my official entry since I finished Leadville. I was on the provisional list. I was the only one on the provisional list. So for those of you that don't know, if you do not get into the lottery for Wasatch, then if you are attempting the Grand Slam, you are put on a provisional list. And if you finish 3 of the races prior to Wasatch, because you have to run Wasatch in the Grand Slam, then you are officially entered after you finish that 3rd race. So I am now officially entered into Wasatch. It's my next goal, just wonderful goal. Unfortunately, from the Challenged Athletes Foundations, there was only 2 of us that finished from the foundation. I want to thank Jennifer Rose for all of her work. It was tremendous. If you want to do Leadville, it is a tremendous organization to work for. They do tremendous things. I was running for a little girl named Olivia. She has spina bifida, and she received a wheelchair for racing from the Challenged Athletes Foundation. So I had a bracelet on in honor of her. And, it was tremendous. Meant a lot to me, meant a lot for all the donations that everybody put into this. So thank you so much on behalf of the Challenged Athletes Foundation. Thank you for all your contributions. It was wonderful. As I said, there's some really good opportunities out there for raising money. They do some good stuff. Leadville is an amazing event. It's tough. It's challenging. Do I recommend it? If it's your cup of tea, absolutely. It's a beautiful course. It's tough. If you want a challenge, Leadville is all that. It is a challenge. Aid stations were wonderful. Volunteers were wonderful. Course markings were wonderful. Not a downside. There's a lot of road, so I don't think people realize how much road is actually involved in this race, but there's quite a bit of road. So it's not all like single track. There's a lot of kind of fire service road, if you will. It's great though. So yeah, if you're interested, great race, great challenge, great people. So amazing community. Leadville is a wonderful town. I was incredibly just enamored with Leadville on the whole. So glad that community exists. Very cool place to go and visit. So that's Leadville, folks. Number 3 in the books. Number 3 down. Wasatch to go. I'll be recording an episode with Andrew Snow again. If you've listened to the previous episode, what a wonderful episode. Andrew is just a wealth of knowledge. So we'll be recording another episode to release. I'll also be recording another episode with Thomas Brown. Thomas is one of the 6 that are left, myself and him, for the Grand Slam. So we'll be recording our episode about Wasatch and talking about Wasatch. I started going through all of the Wasatch stuff on the plane ride home, kind of going through logistics, understanding, planning the crewing and pacing. There aren't very many crewing stations, which is going to be challenging. I'm going to have to carry some extra fluids. and just logistics are going to be a little bit different. So we're already planning that because that's coming around quick. And in between, I have a flight to Italy. My brother's getting married, so going to Italy. As soon as I get back, I switch bags and head to Utah. So this is going to be crazy. So that's why I'm recording so many podcast episodes and getting them ready for a release. It's just a lot going on right now, and coaching cross country. So. And my normal coaching. So very, very awesome time right now. Very grateful, very, very grateful for all of the opportunities. Very grateful for all of you. Thank you so much for listening, for supporting, being a part of this podcast. And thank you to my Patreon for all those supporters that financially help me keep this going. Very motivational. So thank you. The newsletter. I'll be getting back to the newsletter after I get done with Wasatch. I think things will hopefully calm down a little bit. So I want to get back to the newsletter, whether it be monthly or every other month. I really want to get back to that. I do enjoy the newsletter and doing some writing. Have a lot to kind of put down, thoughts to go through. I've learned so much, as we continue to do, as we grow in this sport. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode and you take away some stuff from it. It was quite the experience, as you can tell. I'm really drained at the moment. Got a PT appointment with my PT, Miriam Saloon, the runner's mechanic on Thursday. Kind of just go through my legs, make sure everything is good. And I'm in good shape for Wasatch, so I appreciate her. Just trying to stay healthy. Trying to get this done. So it's a lot of questions out there, a lot of gear choices. So I'll be talking about that stuff with Thomas on that episode as that comes up, and that will drop probably the day before Wasatch. Wasatch is actually on a Friday. I think it's the September 9th, if I'm remembering my dates correctly. But it is Friday. So it's exciting. I can't believe it's Leadville's done and we're on to the last race of the series. It's incredible. We have 36 hours to complete Wasatch. So it's the plan is just to get it done, right? Crew out there is going to be Nathan, of course. He'll be back out there. Our friend Caleb is coming, and my friend Michael Patton, who's been on the podcast previously as well. So I've got the three of them coming out. And oh man, it's going to be another challenge. Time to watch some YouTube videos and get some insight from folks that have done it previously. It's time to research. So, but again, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for all of your kind words, both before the event and after the event. It does mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate all of you more than I can say. And I want to say thank you to all of my crew, Nathan and Penny, Drew, Jeremy. Thank you guys. And then Morgan and Lynn, thank you guys so much for your added support. You guys are wonderful. It made it so much nicer and so much easier to have them there and be a part of it. So I want to just recognize their part in this, and their part in my success in finishing. So thank you guys, and thank you for listening. Until next time, keep running and keep moving forward, my friends.